Hello everybody, it's time for the ranking of Doctor Who Season 8. Not much to say in terms of a preamble for this thing, just know there's going to be some very mild spoilers for this thing. I'm not going to get too into plot specifics for this one, and also of course this is entirely my opinion. Our rankings won't necessarily align, and that is absolutely fine, so long as we are both having fun. And with all that said, let's just jump right into this thing and get started. Colony in Space was always going to be at the bottom of this list. I don't even think it's a bad story, it's just not one that I enjoy very much. It's there, it exists, it has some merit to it, it does at the very least try to throw in the Master to keep it more entertaining and enjoyable, and to an extent I do appreciate that and do think it legitimately works for the story's benefit, but at the same time this one is way too long, it's over 2 hours, it's overstuffed, it should have been a 4-parter, maybe even a 3-parter, and at this length, it just goes on for way too long, isn't very interesting, has this setup, this dynamic with this colony that I just don't find myself all that engaged by, and this monster in it, and there's just very little for me to actually enjoy within this one. I know it's trying to do its own thing, and it does finally get the Doctor off of Earth, which I really appreciate, but it doesn't do enough with that. I feel like this should have been a more monumental story, and even within its own right, even saying it's not trying to be a monumental story, it's just not a very engaging one. The Mind of Evil. I like this story. It's enjoyable, it's fun, it's entertaining, the Master is good within it, the Doctor's good within it, Jo Grant not as much. I like sort of the setup that we have for this one with all these different settings. It's really just enjoyable to watch. I like seeing the Master use mind control. I like all these different locations. There's just a lot about this one that works for me on a practical level and just as an immersive experience when watching this story. There's nothing that I can point to and say that's great other than, the Master and the Doctor and their dynamic, but it's just fun to watch. It's entertaining, and I do like how there is a point in this one where we do get to see those two characters team up just a little bit. That's something I really enjoy seeing in this show. It happens just a little bit in this one, and I appreciated that. Again, there's nothing fantastic about this one, but it's just kind of a nice story that doesn't get very much credit that I really quite enjoy. The Claws of Axos. I just like this one. It's a 4-parter, so it is quite nicely paced. I like the stuff that we have going on with the actual ship in this one. I really just love the design of it. I think it's quite cool, and I do enjoy the mix of green screen and practical stuff. I think that was balanced pretty well. I mean, you can tell what stuff is green screen, but it still merges together decently and works as an effective way of communicating the look of this ship that they are going for. So that works for me. But this is one of those stories that really just has a good pace to it and is short and enjoyable. And that's not something you always get from the Third Doctor, so I appreciate just having a story that's on the shorter side and is fun and entertaining. I'm pretty sure Terror of the Autons was the first ever Third Doctor story that I saw, and I still really enjoy this one. I've seen it several times now, and it's just really good fun. It's a good way to introduce this character. We see him within like the first scene of this thing and see that he has mind control, and that's quite cool. We know that things are a little bit serious because the Time Lords do show up to say, hey, Doctor, the Master is here, you gotta take care of him, so I like that. We're also introduced to Jo Grant, which, she's okay. And again, this is a story that is quite concise, really enjoyable, and has some kind of creepy aspects to it. There's definitely some quite dated green screen effects, but I still just really like this one, especially just as an introduction to the Master. I think it works really well in introducing a brand new villain to the show, and I think he's really excellently portrayed by Roger Delgado, and the chemistry of these main two actors is really good, and I really do think that the Brigadier and Unit have a good place within this story. They're not as heavily used as they are in some other stories, and sure, maybe they could have been used a little bit less, but they work alright, and yeah, I just really like this one. I absolutely adore the Daemons. This is just such an enjoyable, entertaining, atmospheric, and wholeheartedly unique story. You cannot point me to any other Third Doctor story and say, hey, this one's like the Daemons. It just doesn't exist. This one is so unique in terms of what it's doing, the style that it is going for. It's something quite different and incredibly entertaining. I love when the show just says, you know what, screw it. We're gonna go for this thing and we're just gonna do it. It has some sort of sci-fi explanation that lets them do more almost fantasy things, but then they can just do it. They can just do those fantasy things. Some of it they don't even have to explain. It's just a thing that they do, And I love that because it just allows me to have a ton of fun in what they are portraying on screen. I love it. I love the style of this one. There's just so much about it that I adore. Ultimately, it really is just the style of this one that absolutely stands out to me. There's nothing about the story that is particularly incredible. I mean, it's good. I like it. But the style, the atmosphere, what this thing is trying to be, it absolutely succeeds in being. And I unabashedly love it for that and consider it to be one of the most unique Third Doctor stories, and just such a fun and dark episode of classic Doctor Who. Yeah, this one's good. So that's that, my ranking of Doctor Who Season 8. You can feel free to leave yours down below. I'm curious as to how you rank these stories, and whether or not you enjoy the Daemons as much as I do, because, let's be honest, I really enjoy that story. And if not, that's absolutely fine, but I do hope you'll join me around for my review of Day of the Daleks this upcoming Sunday, and if not, that's totally cool, so long as you know that I appreciate your time here today. And with that said, thank you very much for watching, take care, and have a lovely week.